Welcome back to Buckets, WNBA edition. I'm your host, Jim Turvey. It is a Tuesday. You know what that means. We've got Dano, Mataya in the house. Dano is a fun weekend of W. We're now into the season a little bit. We now have, things we can look at. We can look at, patterns. We can look at substitution stuff. We can look at shooting regression. We can look at all this stuff. We're going to do that a little bit later in the episode. But how was your betting weekend? How's the season been treating you so far? Good to see you.
Yeah, always great to see you, Jim. Look forward to this every Monday night, getting ready for Tuesday. It's nice to have the slow Mondays in the WNBA season, especially with Roland Garros happening. It's getting crunch time there, and the fact that we're into June lets you know that this thing is real. And I love that we're already finding some great trends. We read the Liberty super well last week with the Valks.
Yep.
To a T. Didn't know Jonquel was going to be sitting.
Well, I'm going to cut you off. We didn't. You did. That was an absolute snipe, and I hope everyone followed that because you nailed that they were going to run through them in the first game, and then come out a little flat the second game. I hope people tailed that because you nailed that.
Yeah, I mean, would have done without Kate Martin hitting a 3 at the end of that first game to cash an alt, but. But yeah, no, the only thing that was, I don't want to say troubling to me this weekend, but is annoying is I feel like we've gotten so many injuries. I mean, obviously the Caitlin one was huge last week, but we got Fee missing games. Alyssa Thomas is going to be missing her third straight game this week. I mean, you got hardship contracts coming up left and right. A little too early for me.
The Fever as a whole are just decimated right now.
Yeah, so could do without that. How was your weekend?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was up and down. It has been an up and down start to the season. I tweeted out in the middle of the games on Sunday that I was like, I'm taking a break. And then they all came back to win. And I was like, all right, you know what? I don't need to take a break. My reverse jinx worked well. But overall,
Storm should have cashed too if Noelle wanted to go for 3.
I know that was a brutal. I almost literally swept the board after having at halftime been tracking for literally none of them to hit. So that was pretty nice to flip from oh my god, I'm losing every bet to cashing a good majority of them. But overall positive on the year and can't complain because honestly I feel like the process has been pretty good. And I just think it's a sharper market and that's good. That means more people are paying attention. It means more eyeballs are on it. We've got a pretty solid Tuesday slate. It's a little bit smaller than last week. I think last week you might have had 5 games, or it was definitely a good number. This time we got 3. So let's. I really liked with Sean. We kind of walked through game by game. We'll do it still mostly Jim Dano style, where we'll give our best bets. We're going to make sure to talk about every game though. So first up on the docket, we've got the Washington Mystics at the Indiana Fever. Fever laying 5, total of 161.5. We'll have plenty of best bets for that. In the later slot, we've got Dallas at Seattle. Seattle's minus 9.5, totals 165.5. You've got a best bet for that, so we'll talk through that. But let's real quick talk about Phoenix at Minnesota. Minnesota laying 12, total of 157. This is one that neither of us have a best bet, but I think we both lean the same direction. So do you want to kind of lead off your thoughts on this game, and we can kind of talk about why we're on the side that we're on, at least as a lean?
Yeah. I don't think the Lynx have covered since their game against Seattle. I don't know. They didn't cover against Seattle. Yeah,
I can look it up while you're talking.
They haven't covered since. I know they covered against Dallas, but they have not been covering these spreads. And granted, they do deserve the respect, and I do think Bridget Carlson is going to start making, more than 20% of her threes. They still are a awesome team, but. They're a team that almost lost to Seattle. They almost lost to Connecticut. Up until the third quarter, they were neck and neck with the Valkyries. And then Phoenix, who has been without AT, nearly beat the Lynx at home. And up losing by basically a game-winning 3 from Letitia Heidemann. And then, they came out and smacked the Sparks in the second half, which, I didn't see coming, but they really don't get flustered by their system, and they just have so many players that hit threes. They got shooters everywhere, and I don't know what the Sparks are doing defensively by not switching everything, but they got so many good looks, and I understand it's it gets tiring, especially for bigs to be guarding out on the perimeter with the size that Phoenix throws out there. And then Satu just plays as hard as she does, I think I have no choice but to take 12 points with the Mercury on the road.
Yeah, the Lynx are really weird. They're 7-0, but you're right. They haven't covered their last 5 games. They covered the first 2 games, and they have not covered since. Fee has been out for a few of those, but obviously that's factored in the spread as well. I definitely lean towards taking the 12 here with Phoenix. The market kind of seems to not be trusting Phoenix. I mean, that could be that the market really respects, Kalia Copper and Alyssa Thomas, and they're both missing. But Satu Sabali is playing out of her mind right now. And like you said, they've got a lot of shooters, just like really good role players. I really have loved Monique Koa-Makani to start the season. She's one of my favorite rookies from a kind of unheralded class that's really kind of been way better than I thought that this rookie class was going to be. So shout out to her. Let's get our official best bets here. So we kind of teased that we'd have some for those earlier games. So Dano, why don't you've got your 2 and I've got 2 as well. So why don't you do your 2 Tuesday best bets?
Yep. So starting out, I'm taking the Mystics again against the Fever, +5. I think that's great. And then the next best bet for me would be the Seattle Storm team total over. I believe it's 87.5 is what I've written down. 87, 88. It's fine.
Perfect. We'll go through the logic on those, but love just getting those to start. I'm pretty much aligned with you on the Washington. I just attacked it a little bit different. I'm doing the Indiana team total under 83.5. And then from that same game, 3 of our 4 best bets from that Washington-Indiana game. So maybe we can, we won't do a parlay today, but you can put some of these pieces together. We've got Kiki Iriafen under 9.5 rebounds. So Dana, let's start. Let's actually do the Seattle one first, because we have so much in that second game that we can really kind of dig in. Let's talk through Dallas at Seattle. I saw this best bet of yours. I was very intrigued. I think this is a really fun way to attack this. You've got their team total over 87.5 against Dallas.
Yeah. To me, and I'm probably going to end up betting the Seattle spread, but Dallas, Chris Kokanis said something very similar to what Coach LT said, Patricia Stremmel said when she came into Dallas. It all starts with our defense. And nothing could be further from the truth. This team is horrible defensively. I think they rank 13th out of 13 in all major defensive categories. Just getting ran through by every team they play. I think everyone's put up at least 90 against this team. And Seattle, the fact that they're coming off 3 straight losses, which was why I was a little afraid to take them at home against the Aces, or why I was afraid to take the Aces in Seattle, because they were coming off 2 straight losses, now 3, and their offense was super bugged down. This is a team that has put up over 100 points before. They have shooters. They're getting contributions from a lot of different players. Had a crushing loss against Atlanta where they were leading the majority of the game. We're up by 18 at one point. So I think they're going to be motivated to get back in the win column and lay the hurt on the wings. And I think it's going to be a lot of points with that Dallas defense.
Well, and if you want someone to come off of, now a couple losses in a row and really kind of put their stamp on game, Skylar Diggins is a pretty good player to do that. Ezi Magbagor started. She had a better first half last game. I was really kind of watching her because I had a bet on her. Ended up getting hooked, but she had one of her better games of the season, especially in that first half, like kind of third quarter type of frame. Then she didn't really do much down the stretch, but she's one who I keep waiting for her to kind of pop, because we've seen her in recent seasons really have success. And if anything, with Jewel Lloyd out of town, makes sense to, maybe get her a little bit more of a role in the offense. So I'm still waiting for that to come around. The minutes still with Noah Quinn, I do have questions about the minutes. I mean, we saw Lee Yuru was -11 in 3 minutes against the Aces. That's like, just don't put her out. She's not the matchup for that. Meanwhile, Lexi Brown literally couldn't crack the rotation. I'm struggling. I'm not at the practices, but this Seattle Storm team, to me, I think there's pieces here, and I want to see the adjustments made that get the wins out of this team. They have a really tough schedule to start, so I think the wins will start coming. Dominique Malanga is slowly kind of putting things together. She had her best game against the Aces. I think she had 8 points, made 4 rebounds, something like that. So there's a lot here in Seattle. Gabby Williams is playing some of the best basketball. So yeah, I think especially against a team like Dallas, who is not going to be shy turning the ball over. Do we know, is Paige officially ruled in one way or the other for this game? Yeah, she's out, right?
She's out. She's out. So is Ty Harris.
And the net rating stuff for Paige is already bonkers. Like with her, like her on off is like Jokic level. If we do the men's side comparison here for a second, of I think it's like a 27-point swing with her either on or off the court. So this Dallas team is bad. I probably would lean towards joining on the 9.5. I really like this way of attacking it with the team total as well, though. So I like that. Let's go to this game, Washington to Indiana, kind of a more middling game, if we're being honest about Indiana. We're going to talk through some of these Eastern Conference teams later on in the episode. I know you have some thoughts on Indiana as a whole, so maybe that kind of bleeds into this cap here. But what do you like about the Mystics +5 here?
I love them coming off a loss. They got spanked by the Liberty at home, which I think a lot of people were on the Mystics. Liberty were on a back-to-back, but I think the Liberty is just a different level in talent. And I think we've learned that. I think the expectations on the Fever were just sky high, and maybe I'm guilty of that too. Because the pieces they have on paper should be great. They really haven't been clicking offensively. Everything is just, I mean, they had that spurt in the fourth quarter against the Sun. And mind you, this is a Sun team that was down 54 points to the New York Liberty. Liberty could have gone for a 60-point win and broke the all-time record if they wanted to, but they didn't. So to me, it's just they don't really have an answer offensively to make things click. And I think that you're going up against a hungry team off a loss, a team that knows they can beat you, with one of the most elite players at just getting wins. I mean, I don't know what her win share is, but Brittany Sykes is just, I don't think I trust anyone more to go out and get a rebound when it's needed, get a bucket, get to the free throw line. So even if this thing is close, I really do trust in the Mystics here. And I mean, I do worry about coming off a loss and giving the Sun their one win. But you're giving 5 points to a team that you've lost to, and you still don't have your best player. You lost one of your, primary scorers off the bench. So I assume they're going to keep their same starters. Bonner's going to be coming off. You've got your best game out of DeWanna Bonner already. Maybe that trend continues, but feel real good about the Mystics here.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. The market seems to have moved a little bit towards Indiana. I don't see this. There's been some confusing market moves to me lately, and I hit one, lost one. That it hasn't always necessarily gone that direction. But I was one of those people on Washington against the Liberty. That definitely didn't work out. But other than that, they have been a team that's mostly writing games right now. Like you said, that they beat the Fever straight up. That was in Washington last week, but that was the first non-Caitlin game. I'll transition into my best bet here, which is Indiana team total under 83.5. Plays right into that, like you were talking about. A lot of the points you made were points I had here. They went under this total against the Sun. This Washington team is a lot better than that Sun team, and like you said, they needed the big run to get to 83. Before that, it was it was looking like it was tracking for mid 70s or something like that. So they did sign Ari McDonald. Ari McDonald. I don't know why I said Ari McDonald. But in her career, she's actually been a better defensive player in the W than offensive player. And I think she's interesting, and I think that she's better. She's an upgrade from Sydney Colson.
Immediate.
Really, they should not have started. I was doing the projections for Roto Grinders that I do over there, and I was doing her minutes. And they kept going low because I was like, they can't possibly give Colson 30 minutes. They gave Colson 30 minutes that first game, and that is not. She's one of my favorite players in the league because of the personality. She's so fun to follow and stuff, but she is not. I don't think she would say she's a starting WNBA point guard. Especially if you want a really elite offense, and that jump down from Caitlin to her is pretty noticeable. For Washington, they're also quietly a top half of the league defense by defensive rating, and they're bottom half of the league pace. So they're not giving up all that many points per game. Shakira Austin's just playing more and more minutes. We'll talk through that in the next part of the cap here. But she's one of the best defenders in the league. So more minutes for her. Great news for Nunder. No Sophie Cunningham, like you mentioned, who was one of the better scorers off the bench they had. And Bonner has been awesome in these two games. But I kind of agree with you that I don't think we're getting another 30-point Bonner outing. And suddenly, if you take away 10 points from Bonner, you're still leaving her with a very decent total. And where are those other 10 points coming from? Maybe you could say Aaliyah Boston could play better, Boston point unders have actually been where I've been looking with Caitlin out.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Caitlin opens up so much of her on that pick and roll. She's one of the best finishers in the league, so she can do some of it on her own, but getting that pick and roll is really, really strong for her. So I think this number is way too high here. I was thinking about leaning towards the Mystics. I was thinking about leaning towards the under. Combined them, I was like, I'm just going to put those two together, and it gives me the Indiana team total under 83.5. So I'll be on that.
I like it. And I think the point you made about Caitlin open everything up for Aaliyah.
Yeah.
I think the spacing in general is horrendous.
Yeah.
They're having shot clock violations, like terrible turnovers, like forced post entries from like not even free throw line extended, but like kind of that middle area between the top of the key in there. It's off, and you could tell. And I don't think those are problems you fix in 3 days.
In a weekend, yeah. I will say Kelsey Mitchell's one who I've been looking at the overs and been intrigued by those overs. Hasn't happened so far. She has shown in the past before Caitlin even got there that she can be the lead person in an offense, but she hasn't flexed those muscles in a minute, and it's looked a little shaky scaling that up right now. She has not been as strong as I was hoping. So maybe she has the breakout, but again, Washington's a pretty decent defense, and I think that the 83.5 is a big ask for Indiana right now. So I'm taking that under. The player prop I've got here is Kiki Iriafen under 9.5 rebounds. So she's averaging 10.1 this season. So she's averaging over this number. But last 2 games, she's been at 8 and then at 7. It makes sense. The front court's kind of filling in. We got Shakira Austin back. Then we got Aaliyah Edwards back. And this is now a pretty crowded front court, which is a good problem to have for Washington. It's great to see them healthy. Great to see them, this incredibly talented young front court is super fun together, but there's just not that many minutes. So those first, I think it was 5 games of the season for her minutes were up at 30.3. Last 2 games where she was at 8 and 7 rebounds, there's at 23.6. So, the minutes have dropped off a little bit. I think there was a tiny bit of foul trouble in the one game, but I would project her around 24, 25 minutes. Really hard to get 10 rebounds in that short of a, window, even if you are as good a rebounder she has been in the league to start. Then quietly, Indiana's kind of a good team at limiting rebounds. They allow a fair amount of rebounds, but if you look at per 100 possessions, they don't. They just play at a fast pace. With Caitlin off the court, they play at a slower pace. So suddenly you're more of a league average pace. So we're not going to get this up and down style as much. And a game, in an under script does, theoretically mean more rebounds. But if it's under due to pace, I think that can play well together. So to recap our best bets, we've got Seattle team total over 87.5 from Dano. Then we've got all in one game here, very similar script. We've got Washington +5, Indiana team total under 83.5, and I've got Kiki Iriafen under 9.5 rebounds. Let's do our survivor. If this is your first time listening, Dano and I have crafted this idea together. I came up with the idea for a long shot bet for each episode, and Dano came up with the idea to shrink it each week. So what is your survivor bet for Tuesday's slate?
Good to have a pick from the Mercury Lynx game. I'm going K-Mac, 10 plus points. Sure, this, she definitely steps up with less fee. I know fee's going to be back, but she's definitely being aggressive. She's getting, scoring at all 3 levels. I think 10 points is too short for somebody who is that good. It's still, every time I talk about the survivor pick, it gets a little scary.
It's funny how much scarier a -500. I'm like, man, I really can't miss this.
I know. I do not want to be the one to lose. But yeah, 10 plus points, -650.
Yeah, I really like you. I actually texted you thinking I was going to be on the same one as you, which I'll give mine in a second. And then you fired back this one. I was like, oh, I really like that. I wish I had come across this one. So I love this one. Was on K-Mac points the other night as well. She's been doing great. She has been reintegrated perfectly. That was a worry. I think it was you and I talking. I can't remember which of these pods it was, but definitely chatting about like a little bit of worry about how long K-Mac had been out, but she's come back and she's looked perfect. I think it really was just kind of return to conditioning. She'd been a little banged up in Unrivaled, and for some reason they wanted to call it personal, and that worked, and she got back into the mix, and she's looking great. So that's great news for Minnesota. This is one where you're going to kind of touch on this a little bit later in your breakdown when we look at Washington, but she has missed this once this season. but that was a game. I think she was like 1 of 15 from something comically bad, maybe 1 of 13. Certainly not what you'd expect in a game like this. She's been getting to the free throw line. When I had Kerner on here at the end of last week, his best bet, or he had a lean at least on a Sykes points under, and I was like, yeah, I'd really like that play. It was against the Liberty. It was like, oh, they don't foul. She's going to struggle in this game. She missed time in that game. She went out with a hand injury for a hot second, came back, still cleared it because she still got to the free throw line. She's just playing. She has the ball so much in her hands. She's getting really good minutes. Sydney Johnson's not afraid to have her out there. I think the injury is the biggest fear with her. She's already had a couple of nicks here and there this season. But 15 plus points, I think I'm fine laying the minus 590 in a game against Indiana that I'm with you on leaning towards the Washington side. So if you add those two together, we can do a little parlay of the two. You can get plus 147 at DraftKings. You get plus 157 at Bet365 for folks who can get down there. So got you a plus money if you combine the two long shots. And then, fingers crossed, we survive another week, Dano.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to have to start going to like Liberty to score 70.
I know, pretty soon. Like we're gonna get to the All-Star break. Is gonna be, maybe we have to do it by like minus 50 for a stretch. We don't want to be going too fast.
Yeah, no, I mean, it'll get more competitive. You got to do plus one,
we're doing plus 300s if we survive that long. All right, let's transition into the second half of the pod here. So the idea for this week was to come up with one kind of like team or player or just kind of broad betting thought, trend, topic, whatever you want for the 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. So we'll go through Atlanta, Chicago, Connecticut, Indiana, New York, and Washington. And Dano and I each have kind of a betting takeaway, a betting observation from the start of the season here. I'll defer to you first on the Dream, a team that I have really loved watching so far this season. What has stood out to you about the Dream? I really like. I hadn't caught this, what you see here, but I really like this look.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, hashtag ATL Lytics. Carlos Mesco, for those who don't know, had shirts made that say ATL Lytics, gave them to all his players.
That's awesome.
And he's sad that none of them wear it. But I love him for that. But yeah, to me, it's the second half. This Dream team comes out in an entirely different way. But in first halves, Dream's offensive rating is 96.4. So it ranks like 9th in the league. So nothing special. Defensively, incredible in the first half. Defensively in the first half, they are at 92.8. Ranked second in the entire league for first half defense. For some reason, and we have a good enough sample size, these numbers completely flip in the second half. Offensively, they're 117.4 in terms of offensive rating in the second halves this year. That's best in the league by a mile. I think the next closest would be to like the Liberty at 109 for second halves. And we've seen the Liberty have blowouts and take out their starters like in 2 games. So truly special. And then second half defensive rating goes from a 92 to a 110. And that ranks 12th of 13 teams. Yeah, it's crazy. Second half overs, if you typically take a WNBA game, they're usually set around 80. Second half over would have cashed in 6 of their 7 games in May. The only one would be the Sun, which we've seen with the Liberty before, just cannot score sometimes. So, is what it is there. So yeah, their second half overs are definitely a play to look at. And then, mind you, Atlanta Dream on the road this year, 4 games on the road, overs 4-0. Just saying, like it's they're great on the road. I mean, they beat Seattle, beat LA. They beat LA wire to wire. If I'm not mistaken, they were down 18 at Seattle. Came back and won that. Huge second halves. Yeah, I mean, I love Carlos Mesco. Guy's a visionary.
Yeah, my betting takeaway. I love that, by the way. I think that's a really sharp thing. You can maybe even look to live bet. We're starting to see live player props as well. So live player prop, grab that. Player who's getting a lot of looks, but maybe shooting cold. Go after that. I really like that look. That's really cool, and I think it speaks to Smesco's ability to adjust. And listen, this is like the Smesco fan club here. My takeaway is 3-pointers both ways. So we knew before the season that they were going to be getting them up on offense. Was clearly, Griner was shooting them. Bree Jones was shooting them. Alicia Gray's truly everyone. Alicia Gray's off to an incredible start because she's hitting the most of them of any of them. Ryan Howard is shooting the most of them, not hitting the most of them. For those of y'all out there who got the Ryan Howard to lead the league in threes at the start of the year, it still has life because she's still chucking, but she's gonna have to hit a few more to make that bet pop. But what I think is pretty interesting is they're also allowing the fewest threes per game, and this was. I don't follow the college game nearly as much as you and some others. This was a thing in college that he did as well. He's the math game. He's like, we will get up more threes and we'll not allow you to get your threes. It's hard to win games against teams that are really good at that. It doesn't feel very forced. They've got a defense that kind of with BG by the rim. If you're chasing people off the perimeter with BG in the paint, it's a pretty good combination. I think it's part of why they've started the season as strong as they have. Really good for if you're seeing opposing player props. I want to say that Kelsey Plum was a really good 3-point-under. I should double check that, but certainly opposing players looking towards their unders on the threes. It's really a point of emphasis for him and that team as a whole. So do you have any final thoughts on Atlanta? I mean, I've just been really impressed with them too as a whole.
Yeah. No, I mean, you just brought up some things that sparked a lot of betting memories in my head from his Florida Gulf Coast days. And there were so many games where, Florida Gulf Coast is a 12-point favorite. They're down 12 in the first half, and it's reminiscent of this Atlantic or the Seattle game. It's like next thing you know, 6 threes later, and forced turnovers, couple layups, and they win the game, covered the original number. I mean, this is a guy that also had Kirsten Bell as an All-American. He's special. So no respect to Becky Hammond or Kirsten Bell. Just the guy's system is built for high octane offense. And I mean, I'm definitely surprised to hear about the defensive three-point stuff, but that's super interesting. Love to hear it. Good nugget to have when I'm looking at some of these props because God, they're hard. I mean, because some of these numbers seem so easy. With the amount of just the pace that this team can play with. So definitely good to know.
Let's go on to Chicago. Probably one of the bigger disappointments this season. I think we both have relatively negative observations here. Why don't you lead off with yours?
2-game win streak though.
That is true. Against the Wings.
Hey, I'll say this before talking about kind of my trend thing. The offense is definitely coming around. I think the points are coming in for Ariel Atkins in bunches. She's playing so great. Camilla had her career high the other night. I don't know why they stopped going to her. I mean, it's not like they needed her that much in Dallas. Again, against the Wings without Paige. But to me, the defense is where I think you can really key in here, and they're giving up a league worst 32.5 made shots per game, and at a second to worst field goal percentage at nearly 47%. So, I mean, that's tops for. I mean, if granted we're on a 6-game sample size, but I think the worst all time would be 48.9 as an opponent defensive percentage. So something's got to change there. And I really do think they have great defenders. Rebecca Allen's one of the best 3-and-D players you can have. Ariel Atkins is a tremendous defender. I just think it's, some of it's size, some of it's also just they turn it over a lot and the other team gets a lot of layups. But they also play fast. So, but either way, I think looking at other team total overs and then overs in general with this team.
Yeah, I think overs in general is definitely a look because I'm with you on that offense kind of coming around. One of my points to bring up here was something you said is Ariel Atkins. I was betting her at the beginning of the year. I was like, man, this is going to be they're going to run stuff through her. She's going to look great. Salute assists, Atkins points. Those are going to be awesome. She got off to a really slow start, but the last few games she's getting the field goal attempts and she's hitting them. She's been absolutely on fire, playing out of her mind. So definitely something to keep an eye on is sometimes that'll spiral. The better a player plays, you keep getting them more looks. That feeds them confidence. And it's like this cycle upward that can be really good. So definitely Atkins points. I've been really impressed with Sloot too. Her points and assists have been really good looks all season. She's getting a fair amount of minutes there because they don't have a ton of other guards on the team. Van Lith has kind of been in and out, and she's a rookie, who hasn't maybe clicked as much as some of the others. So Sloot has been impressive. But my betting takeaway was, and this is a very logical, makes sense takeaway. It's not going to break any brains. They're very tough to rebound against. They allow the second fewest rebounds in the league. Part of that is Angel Reese and Camila Cardosa are two of the best rebounders, especially Angel Reese is obviously going to be swooping up rebounds galore. But part of it is like what you just talked about. The defense is really bad. There's not all that many you don't need a second chance if your defense is just allowing them to score the first time. So it's really good for, like you said, I think opposing players overs for points, but unders for rebounds. And sometimes that actually can be like, especially a big, like say an Aaliyah Boss and something like that. You could actually play that as a correlated, because like if they don't need the second chance, it's the first basket's going in, the rebound, they might not even get that. If it's a heavy offensive rebound player, you could actually play those that seem to be inverse correlated, but actually play them together, and it might be a good look. So any final thoughts on Chicago, or should we move along to Connecticut?
No, just I'm ready to see them play someone else. That's all.
Yeah, the back-to-backs when they're like kind of bottom of the barrel teams are kind of a tough hang. All right, let's talk through the Sun. So the Sun, they're fresh off was it 54 or 56? What did we land on with the Liberty game?
The final was 48.
Oh, 48. Okay, so it did, but it was in the 50.
It got up. Yeah, it got up to 54.
Okay. And that's my takeaway is blowouts. Be careful betting players even against them, because honestly, and I'll talk through the flip side of this with the Liberty.
I got killed.
Yeah, you can get hooked because the game is a blowout, which is really tough. So 4 of their 7 games, more than half the games, have been 20-plus point losses. That is insane. That's the kind of loss where an opposing player won't be playing half of the fourth quarter, maybe all of the fourth quarter. So you can get, if it's a blowout and you're crushing it on the offensive end, you can get your points. But there's a lot of times that you're going to be sitting on 18, needing an 19 and a half going into the fourth quarter. A couple minutes go by, player comes out, suddenly you got hooked on the under, because these blowouts really do weirdly kind of mess with these overs. So, it sounds like maybe you have an example that happened to you over the weekend.
Dude. I had Cloud to get a double-double at plus 1,300.
Oh,
she had 8 and 7 in 19 minutes. I had her over 9.5 rebounds and assists. Had 9 in 19 minutes. I did a Stewie ladder. She had, I think she finished with 13 or 15, but only played 18 minutes. I think Liberty starters all were in double digits. That was one of the wildest games. Pure. I say it every week, we're the damn Avengers, but the defense was bad. The offense was getting in a rut. So I think they had multiple shot clock turnovers. Oof. I think they had a shot clock turnover out of a timeout.
Yeah, that's when you really know you're struggling.
And it's crazy. This team almost beat Minnesota. It took an 18-3 run in the final 5 minutes for the Lynx with Fee at home to beat that same Sun team. That blows my mind.
It's one of the weirder results we've had this season. The other thing about this with the blowouts for the Sun is their bench is so bad that sometimes the opponents really can build up that score with with their own bench. It's their bench players who are getting those points and stats and rebounds and assists. Whereas the starters at least have Mabry and Charles. There's some respectability to the starters. The bench is where it really falls off. So definitely it seems like a great matchup, but I'd be actually kind of scared playing player props against Connecticut. Yeah,
at Liberty we're up 32 at half, and I'm looking at the third quarter line, and it's minus 2.5 at MGM, and I'm just, there's no way. There's no way,
because their bench isn't a big backdoor. The bench isn't gonna come on and do well and get them the backdoor cover.
No, and I was almost thinking okay, do I play plus 50 at some point? They are professional basketball players, but at the same time, it's no disrespect to Anissa Morrow, Haley Peters, and I don't know who else they throw in there.
Hartley's now in the starting lineup, so maybe JC Sheldon on the bench.
Yeah, JC actually did some good things. Just one thing, like I don't know if you can call it a bright spot when you put up 52 points in a game. I mean, this is his second largest win in WNBA history, even at 48. So I mean, it's unprecedented. But yes, that's such a good point to think about. Good Lord.
And the 52 points you mentioned there, that kind of goes to your maybe kind of obvious, but also, you know, very, very true takeaway on the Sun so far.
Yeah, I mean, team total unders. In that Lynx game I was referencing, the team total for that game was 71.5. They were at 68 with 6 minutes to go and ended at 70. Like, I don't know if the math just works with this team or what, but they really have two threats where you're worried about them getting double digits, right?
Yeah.
And granted, Mabry can do what she did at Indiana the other night, which was like, I live for that. I love when she goes crazy. I mean, it's almost like plays like with an FU mentality, and she's taking the shots and hitting the shots. There's nothing you can do there. But I think for the most part, if you bet the Sun team total under for the majority of the season, you're going to come out ahead.
Yeah, I think it's one of those don't overthink it here, folks. Yeah. I got lucky in the Liberty game because I had Tina Charles under points, and the blow up worked in my favor that way. I think she had 10 at the half, but then maybe didn't even score in the third and didn't play in the fourth. So
Liberty started the third on a 16-0 run.
Yeah, it was that game was insane. That was nuts. All right, let's move along to the Fever, who, big picture, they're going to have Caitlin back before too long, so this could look a lot different. But what has been your takeaway to start the season?
I think their defense is actually really good, which does scare me some on the Mystics. The scary thing is that it's been a little bit better with Caitlin. And I mean, I think casuals will say Caitlin's a bad defender. I think there are plays that Caitlin takes off. I mean, to me, it's very, if you watch James Harden play, James Harden can defend when he wants to. I worship the guy for like 7 years of my life. I watched. But Caitlin is a good defender when she wants to be, and it shows through the advanced numbers. Granted, it's a 2-game sample size, but they have been a little bit worse. But still, at their core, they're allowing teams just shoot significantly better, significantly better with Caitlin. Like, we're talking 40% or less. We brought the Sky earlier at 47. The last 2 games for the Fever, they're allowing teams to shoot 47% against them. One of those teams being a team I just said bet the team total under on every game, Connecticut Sun. So to me, I think it's spacing. I mean, I think there were multiple times in that game where you saw players not even knowing like who their mark was, confusion, transition, and you can't rely on like Kelsey and Lexi Hull to play 35 minutes a game. So I know the point about Ari coming in is going to be nice to get that extra defensive person, but I'm fading the Fever until CC's back, and I know I can trust that defense a little bit. It makes me weary about this total with them, because I feel like we could have something sort of like that Sun game. I think that Sun game went over because of the fourth quarter barrage, but the game was trending under significantly. But that was more so their offense, not really their defense. So I guess my main point is just I'm fading Fever till Caitlin's back.
Yeah, and it might not be that much longer. I don't think we've gotten a big update, but I think it was originally like 4 to 5 games. We're now 2 in, and they theoretically had a lighter schedule. I did want to shout you out because this was another one you had that we were talking through. I think right after Caitlin went down, we talked about how the market had flipped, and Fee was now a heavy favorite. And I used that moment. You laid it out perfectly. They lost the 2 games. Boy, is that narrative look good. If they lose another one, if they keep losing with her out, I actually think that helps her MVP case, like you said, where it's like, man, they couldn't win a single game without her. I used the opportunity to get my Caitlin MVP stock for the year, and now I'm all set. I'm going to sit on it.
Probably the best number it's ever been, too. So.
Plus, it was plus 550. So you combine that with the Fee stock. Asia is playing well, but you and I are both very skeptical of these aces. I don't think that that's one that I'm going to really be missing out on. If she does, she's playing amazing. I've got Caitlin at plus 550. Got Fee from before the season. If I need to, I can fill it out with Asia or Satu. I don't think Satu is necessarily going to win it, but she's probably throwing her name in the ring at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but,
I'm with you.
But my takeaway from the Fever is one that for right now is of interest, but also for the season as a whole, I think is more interesting. So shout out M. Adler of the Next in her excellent Sunday Notes column. So this is a Dewana Bonner Caitlin Clark thing. So far this season, small sample size, caveat galore. 76 minutes, Bonner and Clark on the court together. Bonner is averaging 6.7 points per 100 possessions, 11% usage, 29.4% true shooting percentage. Terrible numbers. 56 minutes without Caitlin, 29.8 points per 100, 23% usage, 66% true shooting. So to compare those, 6.7 points to 29.8 per
Unreal.
100. I mean, again, this is a very small sample, but Bonner is pretty used to being in kind of the offensive hub. Having her just as a, standing off to the side to catch and shoot threes isn't really her vibe. I think it was like, I saw it working better. And so I do have hope for it in the long run. And it certainly is going to be better than this. Like I said, that's a small sample thing there, but you're starting to see the flaws. Like you said, Dano, I was with you. I was pretty high on the Fever. And ironically, like you said, it's the defense that looks pretty solid so far. The offense has a lot of question marks. And I think you can pretty fairly look at it and say, man, some of these make sense as question marks. And Steph White bet her at a pretty short number for Coach of the Year before the season. That I feel like I've lit that ticket on fire already. I have not been super impressed with her. Except on the defense has looked good, so I have to credit her for that. And maybe the offense can come along, but I've got a lot of questions about Indiana right now.
Yeah, and I mean not to say like kick it down a year, because I think Caitlin and Aaliyah, if you look at them playing together at the start of this year compared to last year, it's like night and day. Yeah. They are incredible together, and I think Dewana's mature enough. She's been in the league a long time. We'll find a way to add value, but that is super alarming.
Well, I want, and this is also in that column from M, that I really want Bonner to be the backup point guard. Now, play more than just backup point guard, but there's no reason. Again, love Sydney Colson, intrigued by Ari McDonald, but Bonner is kind of the backup point guard, or is like kind of the lead guard, and give Caitlin some off-ball time. I think that's the way to approach this. Instead of really leaning into just Bonner standing out on the wing as if she's Lexi Hull or Sophie Cunningham, when that's not as much her vibe. So let's move along to the Liberty. We've been gassing them up all episode. I think we're going to keep gassing them up. What has been your betting observation or takeaway for the Liberty?
The greatest team of all time.
You can't gas more than that. This is the ultimate gasser.
No, I mean if I'm being frank, I have I think I've made 12 bets in the last day that are combined with the Liberty to win it all. Every parlay possible on any random thing I could bet on. But the defense is insane. And our defense was insane last year, but then you add in Tasha Cloud, obviously. You add in everyone being super healthy. It's stupid. We've given up 80 points once this year. That was at Indiana when the Fever put up 90 at the third quarter from God. But we're allowing opponents to shoot more shots than anyone. 71.1 attempts per game. I think the next highest is 67. The general average is 66. Yeah, we were holding opponents to 35.7%. The next closest is 38. You're not getting anything. We're in your face all the time. We're making you take bad shots. It's unreal how good this team is. And they remind me of the Aces from a couple of years back. I think the Aces went on a run where they're 12-0 against the spread. The team is just stupid. They were number one in offensive rating, number one in defensive rating, and I think we're seeing that type of dominance just on steroids, basically. So we had the one game where John Quell didn't play. That was the Valkyrie game. But besides that, good Lord, we can't. I mean, who's gonna score on us? Caitlin's not here. We don't play the Lynx till August.
That game, there's gonna be so much build up by the time we get to that game, because the Lynx, even though I am like it's kind of funny, the vibe, right? The Liberty are 5-2 against the spread. The Lynx are 2-5, and you can feel that right now. I think there are many more questions about Minnesota than New York right now, despite both being 7-0.
Yeah, and I think it was perfect for the league to do the GM survey, and 67% said the Lynx are going to win it all. And Fee's the MVP, and I got a text today from Douglas Farmer from Covers.com, who's an incredible writer, incredible theorizer, incredible human being. But what are the odds that the Liberty and the Lynx both come into? They played 3 times in a row, I believe, in August. I may be mistaken. I need to go check. I think it's 3 times in a row. But what are the odds that they both come in undefeated? And I, of course, me being the shithead that I am, I said something like, y'all are gonna lose this week. I'll give you even odds. I don't care. But seriously,
that would be insane.
I don't. I may be talking crap, so I just don't see this team losing.
They look really, really good right now, and they look so good. My takeaway is that it's kind of the inverse of the Sun, where they're winning these games by so much that their overs are kind of scary because their minutes are so limited. Right now, Sabrina's leading the team at 28.9. Cloud's only averaging 27.6.
That's crazy.
They just don't need to play teams in the fourth quarter. And I was going to ask you, is there a way we get an MVP from this team? But I think the fact that it's so spread out, plus the minutes are so low, I don't think there is an MVP from this team, right?
No, I think Jonquel is playing at an exceptional level.
Yeah.
And I think there will be some, puff pieces put out in her, for her case. I would, and if I were to make a bet, I would start tweeting all the stats possible, like I always do. But I'm sure the on-off numbers are crazy. But actually, are the off numbers crazy?
Because the bench is so good this year. That is really what's crazy, and that's kind of what allows them to they start the blowout and the bench continues it. So I also of that vein with those scary not really wanting to do prop overs. Stewie rebounds are way down. Shout out Alan Lem, my buddy coworker over there at Scores and Odds with me. He was on this early. He was like, "Dude, is this real?" And I was like, "I don't know why it would be, but it kind of seems like it is." Because she looks good off of the knee surgery. So I don't think it's a knee thing, but she is not getting rebounds this year. She hasn't needed to. But I do think it's interesting that you point out that they're allowing the most field goal attempts to opponents. Makes me kind of think, I don't have the numbers in front of me right here, but makes me kind of think that maybe teams are getting some second chance opportunities.
Yeah.
Actually converting. But that kind of plays in with these Stewie rebounds being lower in general, plus with just the minutes being lower for this whole team. So that's a prop to keep an eye on if they keep hanging. I think it started the season at 8.5. I think it's down to already 6.5 because she's only averaging, I think, under 5 rebounds a game.
Yeah, and granted, we've beaten the Fever. The Aces, I guess, is a good win. I'm really excited from 2 weeks from now. We play the Dream on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
That'll tell me a lot. We've lost them at home in the past. And like I said, Dream overs are a thing. So hopefully.
Yeah, it will be a very good test for that defense.
Huge, huge, huge. I'm not worried about any of their next games unless Caitlin plays on the 14th. Because that game is also in Indiana. But yeah, I think we need. I'm very high, but I need to see some real tests.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point because it has been a relatively soft schedule. But listen, when you're that good, everyone kind of looks like a soft schedule. Who's really scaring this team outside of Minnesota? So let's move to the final team in the Eastern Conference, Washington Mystics. One of my favorite teams to watch this year, loaded with rookies, loaded with just like I said, talented, fun front court. Brittany Sykes doing her thing. And speaking of which, why don't you talk about your observation for the Mystics?
I didn't have too much analysis with this one. I feel like we find a reason to talk about this team all the time. We kind of talked about it earlier. Shout out to the Survivor play. But I don't think there's a player I trust to get to 20 points more besides Asia Wilson than Brittany Sykes. I think that is second safest bet. Asia's even had a game under 20 this year, actually. Sykes had 1.
Yeah. And it was a crazy bad luck shooting game.
Yeah. Even when they score 63 points, she gets 20.
She's getting to the line, high usage, and like she's thriving with the ball in her hand. She really looks great, and I think she's having a blast with it too. Like she's surrounded by all these fun young big rookies. Like she's just doing her thing.
And they're good personalities too. Like, there's no egos on this team. Like I don't know. I mean, it's very very similar to the Liberty. Maybe I think too highly of the Liberty, except for that Sabrina celebration when they won the challenge of like 35. That was so cringe. And I have to say that on record. But yes, Sykes, filthy. I mean, it sucks that. I mean, it's a double-edged sword for me because I like you were talking about Kiki's reduced minutes as more players are coming back into the fold. I'm loving what I see from. Not last game. I did not love what I saw from Shakira or Aaliyah. They were terrible. I think they were both like minus 25. But besides that, I mean, that's against the Avengers. I want to see them play a lot, all three of them. Yeah. So it sucks. Like I do think that one of those players is a huge asset in a trade, especially the fact that you could have one of these, younger players on a long deal as we had a new CBA. So that's my only critique.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with mine, which was, they are now back to full health. And I think that they have to kind of look at this team and like this they've gotten off to a fun start, but like this year is really an assessment year. That's what it should be. They really need to get, I'm with you. I would love to see Kiki, Aaliyah, and Shakira share the court, see if it's feasible.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, play them all.
Yeah, see, honestly, Kiki is quick. Like, I think there'd be like, that's the type of like lineup that probably doesn't translate to like a postseason. It's just like, there's too many ways to pick it apart. But as a regular season thing, play around with it. Have some fun. See what that might just be a stifling defense with so much size that the speed doesn't matter as much because you got Shakira at the back. So my big thing, I want to watch these rotations. I want to see how the minutes play out. This played into my cap with the Kiki under on the rebounds. But if we start to see, Sonia had her minutes cut into a little bit. Dolson's minutes have shrunk pretty notably. I wouldn't be shocked if Shug Sutton is next. She doesn't quite fit the timeline of this team. So I think she's interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised if she gets flipped to a team that needs, like, honestly, her on Indiana would intrigue me a little bit.
Oh, Shug would be perfect on Indiana.
Right? Create a little creator.
God, yeah. So anyone that can handle the ball at this point.
Honestly. So
I mean,
want to see how the minutes play out. But what were you saying?
I was going to say, like, I love what you're saying in the thought process of like, okay, like you tell Aaliyah or Kiki off season, let's develop a three.
Yeah.
Let's go get Chip English. Let's go hire that guy. Bring him in and develop them into 3-point shooters. I mean, just think about the size and the athleticism on the court. You got Sonia, who's an awesome defender, by the way.
6'1", can play the 2 probably for you.
I mean, yeah, that's all the stock in the world. But yeah, the rotations are definitely something to keep an eye on for sure.
And Shakira, like, literally was asking for more minutes to her coach in a post-game presser. I bumped her minutes a little the next game. It didn't actually happen, so maybe Sydney's okay with his rotations. But I do think eventually she should make sense as like a 20 to 24-minute player. There's only so many minutes there. I wouldn't be surprised if Dolson gets flipped. Sutton maybe flipped as well. But it's just a fun team, man. And yeah. I'm with you on wanting to see it all play out. So any final thoughts on Washington, or should we close it out there?
I think close it out. Well, I mean, too much love for them right now.
I know we're so high on Washington, New York. We need to just buy stock in both teams or something.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to tail any of the bets that we gave out, we kind of talked more broad, big picture there at the end, but we did have our best bets section at the start. Those will be in the quick slip. We'll have quick slip links for those in the episode description for the podcast. If you are listening on podcast, rate and review, obviously, much appreciated. Download the Action Network app. We'll be posting those picks in there as well. So hopefully, honestly, by the time you're listening to this, you may have already seen those bets. Hopefully, that hasn't moved too much if you haven't. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. Thanks to David Payne on audio, Gifford Gould for the YouTube squad. And let's get buckets.